where those who perceive truth may strive to make others see.
A big, powerful America, and shoot them for what?
On that continent, we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other.
With the last words on my lips, that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that.
I seen a video recently that said that Americans in America, oh no, it actually wasn't a video, it was a man in passing. He's actually, I remember the exact interaction actually. He was passing me in a coffee shop. And he was saying that Americans really don't have culture. And that made a lot of sense in terms of kind of what's been brewing in my own kind of mind about the transformations that I'd like to really help initiate in this world. And this idea of America not having culture, it's largely, I would say that it's not really an error in the messaging that we put across, right? The words that we put on paper. I think that actually the words that we put on paper actually create a magnificent, molding for culture to really, really brew and refine. And it's just how often and how frequently we just ignore and contradict ourselves. And this is important because contradiction, when you contradict yourself, I've heard that it's a rejection of one's soul when you choose to contradict yourself. And that's very important because we've been doing that for a very, very long time. And I want people to understand we have to correct the actual course. And it's going to be a tremendous part of really moving forward into the future, I would say. And this idea, for instance, of what we have now, this currently, it's January 6th, 2026, as I'm recording this, and we're talking about kind of regime change and things like that. And there's President Trump is trying to put this idea in the air that America is really what we've been, rather than the aspirations that we put on that paper. And that's a tremendous difference, because people have realized, and they've come to realize that what we've been has fallen significantly short of the aspirations. Whether it's consciously or subconsciously, we do have that understanding. And some people are, of course, you have people that are excited about it and people that aren't. And that's the idea, is that people don't realize we don't really have a culture, right? We have the Roman Colosseum. That's what we have. That's our culture. Our culture is the Roman Colosseum, right? The illusion of essentially, I would say, the idea of navigating attention away from what really matters into something else, so that the people who benefit from what really takes place, what actually takes form and takes shape in the form of real action, they don't garner any attention or criticism, right? That we don't really have that idea. And honestly, when it comes down to the Roman Colosseum, you'll understand that our culture is centered around sports, right? Those moments where we get together and cheer on a team and pretend that this matters. But in the idea of, or in the actual, what actually takes place in the world, how our lives are actually impacted, it has very little to do in terms of the quality of life. It has very little to do with what happens in a sports arena. It has absolutely nothing to do other than the actual, the friends that come over and, going out to a game. We're missing something. We're missing something very significant, and I think you guys really would. There really is this concept of the the golden age, particularly. I'm thinking about the golden age in Islam and the Islamic empires of the old. And I'm not Islamic, and I'm not neither for or against the Islam religion. But when it comes down to that golden age, I think people misunderstand something. This idea of the empires that really rose up, a tremendous part of their success was the ability to have multiple religions in their particular society and take part in their society. They had mosques next to church, or not mosques, and churches and synagogues. I want to say, I'm not sure if they had temples exactly, but they had these things in one city. And honestly, the fact that I'm not sure about temples, that kind of creates even more potential for what we have here, I would say. And what I'm really trying to get at in terms of the transformations that I would like to see, because you had the people, this idea of the melting pot culture that we kind of talk about. We have to understand that this isn't just Democrat messaging for this idea of, oh, we're a really nice society, look at us doing the best we can. It is in terms of the idea of melting, it's what gives us kind of our idea of morality, our sense of morality, right? The sense of morality that would lead to somebody saying that, hey, I'm going to fight for this, and I'm going to potentially die for this particular cause because this is a moral cause to die for. You see, and I think this is something very huge today, because you're not going to have that sense of morality. It's going to be delusional, very much delusional people who are who are just simply ignoring blatant and apparent facts, telling the rest, trying to basically run off of a cliff with someone who is very much delusional in their own way. But we don't have that. So this idea of the culture that we really need, I think, it does need to come to a point to where we're no longer contradicting ourselves, and we make those repairs to our society to where we don't contradict ourselves, and we are coming to an understanding that this needs to change, and we can change it. And this idea of, I think, when it comes down to the concept of various religions existing and literally coexisting. It sounds like rainbowy when I put it that way, but the coexistence and that aspect of coexistence, people don't understand. But that's the solution for that we can take into other planets, other societies outside of Earth itself, the coexistence mentality. Because you can't take a one religion rules them all mentality outside of this particular planet. It doesn't work, honestly. We will quickly be exposed as parasites, and the whole might makes right thing may not work out for us in every sense, especially when we decide to leave this particular planet. We have to really come to terms with the idea that, hey, we might have, we might run into there's always somebody badder out there, we have to understand that. And this idea of, being exposed as a parasite would put us in a very, very bad place. But this idea of coexistence, I thought it was really beautiful because I read a book about kind of, just the golden age of different cities in Islam or whatever, and the Islamic Empire or whatever, and it was so many things that stood out to me. But I think, of course, the idea of multiple religions being able to exist in one city was nice, and it's really did help me kind of formulate the idea for what I'd like to see. But really, another thing was the idea of translations, right? Multiple languages existing and coexisting. And also the idea of, for instance, I'm thinking about these initiatives around actually translating popular books from various cultures and having them in the in some kind of a special type of library or whatever, it's something that would bring us really closer together in so many different ways. And I think if we're looking for even that term, like, the term superiority, I don't think the idea of moral superiority, that idea can only even be really enunciated by the idea of, hey, this is we're talking about a multicultural solution, right? Because it's flawed in one dimension, yeah, but I mean, when we're talking about a metric of, say, for instance, how far can you get as a civilization, if you allow for more than one religion to coexist with you, then or more than one language to coexist with you, then you are much more likely to take whatever model you have, whatever model that is, gets further out into the space, right? So if we're talking about that metric alone of how far out and how many different civilizations can we interact with, that model gets us further, right? So that idea that if we're using just purely that metric of how far we'll get, moral superiority is literally linked to the idea of how can you coexist, and can you coexist, period. Because people right now, if you're able to kind of like loudly proclaim and state that this is a Christian country and stuff like that, this is the contradiction that's been limiting us for a very long time. That's it's kind of like, if you go into a gym and you need to basically find some, I'm picturing like going into a boxing gym and somebody's like trying to like one of these like alpha male weirdos are trying to like assert their dominance in a weird way. It doesn't quite, like, it speaks to an underlying feeling of inadequacy, right? You're not secure in your own self because you can't be around these other people who are also good at their craft, right? There has to be an understanding that these are, we're able to coexist and we're able to be confident in our coexistence, right? That's a confident Christian person, right? When they're able to be in these particular environments and hear these other thoughts and know for themselves that, hey, this is not the way that I live, but me trying to control the way everyone else around me is living is obviously parasitic in nature. And I can't do that. So yeah, so in terms of actually like where we're going, where we need to go, we do need to think about that. What does that mean? Right? What is true? What is true culture for what we have? And I honestly do feel like what we put on paper, our advertisements, are actually golden. They're really great. We just fall short in too many ways.
Where those who perceive truth may strive to make others see.
A big, powerful America, and shoot them for what?
On that continent, we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other.
With the last words on my lips, that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that.